Let me start in our language. We start off with a greeting, which is Nyaweskana Swagwego. I give thanks that all of you are well. And Onundawatga Ni A. In our language, we don't call ourselves Seneca. The word Seneca has no meaning in our language, so we call ourselves the people of the Great Hill, and that is that word Onundawatga. And each of us who is Onundawatga, and we are so by who our mother is. We're a matrilineal society, so we're born into the clan and the nation of our mother. And so I'm a member of the Heron clan by virtue of my mother, and a member of the Seneca Nation also. My father was a member of the Wolf clan and also Seneca, or Onundawatga. And so I am the historic site manager for Ganondagan. And my name is, in English, Peter Jemison. I've been here a very long time. I'm in my 36th year of managing Ganondagan. Having lived here in this area of the Finger Lakes, I have really tried to sort of wrap my mind around what was life like here when my ancestors lived here. We say that Ganondagan could have been occupied from around 1655 to a very definite ending date of 1687, when a campaign of the French came here to literally wipe us out. And so that changed our lives dramatically in that summer of 1687. But prior to that time, as many as 4,500 people lived on top of this hill. There were 150 bark longhouses, and for us, of course, the natural world was our resource. But in addition to that, we really are and still remain a horticultural society, in the sense that we still plant our corn, our beans, our squash, our three sisters, we say, in order to sustain us. At some point in time, people used to have this idea of us being a rather sedentary group. We sort of stayed in one area. We didn't go far, we didn't travel far, and that's really not the case. We traveled great distances for hunting, for fishing, for trading, for whatever purposes we had, defense, whatever it may have been. So, and the way in which we traveled was using the water. The water was the most convenient way. We made, very good canoes, and we had to travel over distances, so we had to make very reliable watercraft, and that was a particular skill that we had. The water, of course, is also a resource for fishing. It's a resource for the birds that use it on their migratory path. The water naturally made it possible to have a good agricultural base here. And I always describe this as, if you look just to the north of the northern end of the Finger Lakes, between the southern shore of Lake Erie and the northern end of the Finger Lakes, there is a very broad swath of land that is very, what I would say, fertile. And it made it possible to conduct a agricultural way of life. And those who came here after us found the same thing to be true. And so when Rochester is known as the flower city, they're talking about the wheat, not the flowers that grow in the garden. People were able to establish an agricultural base, we first, and then others who came. And this really extended across all of our nations, from the Keeper of the Western Door, the Seneca, to the Cayuga, the Onondaga, Oneida, and Mohawk. In our story of unification, we talk about how productive the Oneida were in terms of the corn that they raised. And so each of us, had gained that ability to take care of ourselves and feed ourselves. And that's very important. And here at Ganondagan, we've spent quite a bit of time thinking about that, because the French record says when they came here, they destroyed 750,000 minnots of corn, which translates to about 1.5 million bushels of corn, or 1.25 million bushels of corn. That's an awful lot of corn if you think that that's possible without exaggeration. So it means that we were actively farming. We were storing corn that we were going to need in an emergency, and this became the target of the army that came here to destroy us. It's difficult for us to visualize the forest that was here, the grasslands that were here. We have made a point of restoring native grasses on 2 different locations. We got a third one that's just kind of beginning. So we brought back native grasses, big blue stem and little blue stem, and another one that's just referred to as Indian grass. But these grasses were the kind of thing that we're seeing here, and there were miles and miles of this kind of grasslands. And then there were hardwood trees that were growing amid those grasslands that were large enough that you could ride on horseback under them without hitting your head on the lowest branches. So these were very large trees, and they were very abundant around here. Also, what was abundant was elm, because we were using elm to cover our longhouse, so there was elm bark available. Many of the things that we relied upon, including things like the freshwater eel, many kinds of fish that we relied upon, are no longer seen here. They really have been diminished by pollution, by the runoff that comes from the agriculture, by diseases that have impacted these trees. And right now our elm trees are experiencing this black ash, I should say. Black ash is really experiencing this terrible blight of the black ash borer. And so these things have happened, and they've changed dramatically the environment around us. I think I emphasized at the beginning of our conversation that I really emphasized the present, that we are here in the present, that this happens to be one of our towns that we occupied in the 17th century, but we managed to survive all of the different incursions that came. 92 years after the French, the Sullivan-Clinton came through here, and the Sullivan-Clinton campaign focused on the destruction of our food source, again, the corn, the beans, and the squash. We became refugees of the British along the Niagara Escarpment and the Niagara River. We survived that. We then dispersed to places like Buffalo, and some of our people were enticed to go out west. Some of them did, some of them didn't. We have a small group of people that live in Oklahoma. We have a large group of Oneida that live in Wisconsin. We have people who live on the other side of the Niagara River in Canada. And there's a large population called at the Six Nations Reserve. Of course, people occupy many cities and towns as well. So we're still here, we're still present, and we have the oldest existing form of government, the original form of government, a chieftain form of government that still is a part of the Seneca, it's still a part of the Cayuga, it's still a part of the Onondaga, the Tuscarora. So, there are Mohawk chiefs as well. So we have to realize that, we are still here in the present, and still having some, influence, I would say, over what people think and how people actually use the land today. There's more and more recognition of the environmental urgency that exists to protect the water sources, to recognize that man is a very destructive animal, very destructive being, and that the cause of the changes that have taken place in our environment are directly a result of what mankind has felt they had to do in order to thrive here, I guess you could say. And so I think people are catching on to the fact that for every action of man, there can be a negative reaction in the environment around us. And so what is our responsibility? Our responsibility is to take care of the earth while we're here, and to hand it forward to the generations that are yet unborn. This is one of our central teachings, is that we We don't know how much time each of us individually has, but while we are here, we try to live within a certain harmony within our environment and to respect the other beings that occupy this environment with us. Some of them are a resource to us, a source of food, the white-tailed deer, the fish, the walleye that grow and live in the waters. These things are, still cherished by our people, and so we have to try to show some respect toward these other beings occupying the land. The earth is our mother. The earth has provided a human being with everything we need to survive. What we have created beyond that is what mankind thinks it needs. Whether or not that works with the rest of the environment, whether or not that is a destructive force, is the task of the people who are here at this time to figure out how to accommodate the needs of our future generations that are coming and how to hand forward to them a planet that is livable. I am one of those who is firmly attached to this place, and and I expect that there are others who will understand that this is a finite resource that we have to protect. And those are my words. Thank you.